Welcome to the Collecting Keys Real Estate Investing Podcast with your host, Mike DeHaan and Dan Austin. From wins, losses, horror stories, and tactics for optimizing your business, Mike and Dan take a real, uncensored deep dive into the ins and outs of running a full-time real estate investment and wholesaling business.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to episode 34 of the Collecting Keys Real Estate Investing Podcast.
Ooh, 34. What are we doing here?
Older than
boy.
me. Almost as old as you.
You are young.
I mean, what 5 years younger than you?
Yeah.
36? 31? I don't know. To be fair, after your time in the war, you've also
I feel like I have a young personality for my mid 30s.
You do. You have a young personality, but you have wisdom like an old man.
I'm so wise. So wise.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
So, gotta take that. No. We are in full growth mode right now. We've been spending the last couple of days going through interviews and everything, trying to bring on more staff.
Hiring is such a it's a good thing, but it's also such a slog to find the right people and do all that sort of stuff, and just the process of it.
Well, and also too, like just interviewing people in general is such a bullshit process, because we've done this so many times now, and every time I'm like, after this 30-minute conversation, I'm like, I don't know if I want to work with this person or not. Like, honestly, I guess you can tell a hell no very quickly, but yeses are always super hard to know. Like, you're like, yeah, they're fine. But I've never interviewed anybody and been like, yes, that's the one. That's the one for our business. Cause I mean, especially for us, like we're, virtual company, which is good. And it has it's a lot of positives, actually. First of all, we have a pretty wide candidate pool for our jobs, and because they can be anywhere, so we can pull out rock stars from any city, to be honest. But being virtual like that, you have to find that right person, that is a great communicator, because when you're virtual and you're not in the office, you're kind of having to trust these people to do what you're telling them. But if they're not communicating back to you, it's really hard to do that. Plus, it's hard to build a relationship through a screen if they're not great at communicating. Yeah. And then also they have to be self-starters. They have to be productive. And so for us, there's two things. They need to be that person. But for us, we need to create that environment for them to be able to operate in and give them the right incentives as part of their employment package to be productive and be a self-starter. Yeah. And it's challenging because it's definitely not for everyone. That like so many people think that they want the remote workplace, but they think they want the remote workplace because in their mind, they're like, yeah, because I have like more flexibility to fuck off and do whatever I want, which is true. But you need the kind of person that's going to take that flexibility, but also still be productive, and this is what I tell all of our staff. I'm like, I don't really care what you do during the day, as long as you do what we need you to do and it's done well and you are responsive. Like I've said to our sales guys, like, you can be hitting a workout, at 1 PM, that's fine. But if the phone rings and it's the seller, you better answer the phone. If I shoot you a message because I need something, you need to be available for that. You don't get to like make the work day your time where you're off the grid.
Well, and if you want the ultimate freedom, which is what you and I are working for, that's why we started a business, is we want the ultimate freedom. To have that ultimate freedom, sometimes you don't have freedom, right? You need to be able to play well with others, in the sense of like, if at 1 o'clock is the right time for you to work out, great. Every day at 1 o'clock may not be the best time for you to work out, because you have productivity that needs to get done. And if you can't see that, you're probably going to fail in this environment.
Yeah, you kind of have to be always on. And, especially when you're working for a small business or you have a sales role, you kind of have to make that part of your identity where it's always there and you're not really like in work mode or not in work mode. It's kind of the ugly truth of any sort of role like that has a high income potential or has like a responsive nature, like real estate, where you are, being responsive to sellers. I mean, we've been down this whole rabbit hole where, especially me, I travel a lot. I go a lot of, places with my wife. We like to, go overseas, do everything. But I mean, I've been like, out mountain biking in southern Utah and had to pull off to talk to a seller because they called me and I was like, I better take this. Otherwise they're going to call one of our competitors and we're going to miss out on revenue. Right. Or like, I was in Egypt last October, and, I had to spend about an hour every day on my laptop answering emails and that sort of stuff while the people that we were hanging out with were, partying, hanging out, laying by the pool, whatever. And that's just part of the trade-off that you got to do, and like some people, when you're hanging out with them and you're doing stuff like that, they kind of give you shit for it. But you're like, hey, I just paid for this vacation.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's like, to your point, you've got to be able to keep it on. You can't necessarily always turn it off, which for some people is a big turnoff. And that's why maybe they're not meant to be entrepreneurs or work. As I guess a term I recently learned, intrapreneur, right? Being self-motivated, understanding how to work within a system and be creative. Because if you're like, oh, I'm done for the day, I got to turn it off, and whatever that looks like for you, then you're probably not going to succeed in like this business arena, to be honest.
Yeah. And I think a big thing to highlight is that's okay. A lot of people, they will view, if they're not that kind of person, as like a failure. But that's not true at all. You can be successful in your own method. You just have to sort of find what that is. And then going back to hiring, when we're looking at salespeople, especially, working as a salesperson for our company, it's not like being a realtor in the way that you're a completely sort of like self-driven individual. You are your own boss, but it is similar to being a realtor in the way that, you have to be responsive to the client's needs and you have to be able to act whenever you can. But, similar to like a brokerage, we give them opportunities to make money. But at the same time, if they're not working, they're not making any money because everyone works only on commission. So, and they get a lot more shots at goal than realtors do, which, I think is good and bad. Like even, recently one of our sales guys went on vacation, and I know that while he's down there, he's been down in San Diego. It's been a stressor because he's checked in with me a couple of times, been like, hey, are there any sellers I need to contact? And, I've been like, no, I can take care of it for you while you're gone. Or like, you just happen to actually be in a pretty decent spot where you're between drops, right? So you're not getting a lot of leads coming in. But at the same time, he's down there trying to enjoy his trip, and it's in the back of his head where he knows that stuff might be coming in.
And there are dollar signs that are flying through his head. Yeah.
Right. But he also, has a really high income potential because of that. So, that
100%. I think too, we're in like a cool spot for hiring as well, because we've hired many different ways. And we're like now hiring people that are probably better than us at certain things. We always kind of have in certain areas, but when you're first starting out and you're hiring for your business, you're just like, what can I offload? How can I hire this? And a lot of people, they'll hire a virtual first. And so you got to do a lot of training and get them up to speed, and then they kick butt for you. But now like one of our interviews yesterday, like that guy was way better than me at creative finance. Like his whole skill set is around creative financing. And we can do creative financing sales pitches, and we can coach our guys on creative finance. This guy knew way more about it than me, thinking on his feet. Could I figure it out? Absolutely. And then I was thinking, I don't want to figure it out at the detail this guy has it. That's the guy that's going to do it for me.
Yeah. Yeah. You're completely right. I think that's kind of, you reach a point in your business where you're creating enough revenue that you can afford to bring on people that are better than you. And getting to that point is definitely challenging. But I think that if you don't make that transition where you're willing to, bring on people and accept that they are better than you, and, be willing to pay them appropriately for that, that's kind of what gets people to being very successful, is when you make those transitions. Like when I was at that like Abundance event, and Jeff Hoffman, who, took Priceline public, he had his whole thing on hiring. That was his best thing, was he was able to take so many businesses public over his career so quickly because he found basically a core team that he hired that went with him to business, from business to business, and one of the most valuable things I think that he said was, you do not find the best employees by posting job listings on like a general job listing website, because the best employees aren't looking for jobs.
They're well taken care of already.
Right. You have to go find them. So he talks about how he found his HR partner that took every business public with him. And he's like, so I need to find an HR person. What do I do? He's like, he went to the National HR Awards in Orlando, which apparently was a thing, and he went there, and he said he was the only person. They said that they had a name tag, and it said, your name and your role in your company. He was the only person there that had the role of CEO. And he said he spent the first 3 days walking around trying to meet people, being like, who is going to be my HR person? And then on the last day they had the awards, and he's like, well, duh, I'm going to snake the lady that just won the award.
Best HR lady.
In the country. In the whole country, and he went and, did a whole like headhunting sort of thing with her, right? Like he kind of gave the full pitch. I don't remember the details about how he got her on board. She came over and started working for him. And they went on to take like 5 or 6 businesses public together, and he said that same with like when he brought on his engineers. He's like, I need to find the best engineers. So he went to Silicon Valley. He found out where all the nerds hung out, and he went and talked to all the nerds and all the bars and said, who is the best the best coder that you know? And he said that, there was like quite a few names that came up, but there was one guy that came up a bunch of times out of various different locations. Like, oh yeah, do you know Eric? Eric's the man. Like, he's the guy that's awesome. So he went and found that guy, recruited him, and they went and brought all these businesses.
Well, I don't know like that. So, you kind of had said once you're in a spot for revenue, that you can start hiring these people. I don't know that it's tied to revenue. I think it's really tied to kind of where you're at with your business, because you can go and hire the best person, right? You don't necessarily have to have all the revenue to pay them. Especially in this business, it's pretty commission heavy, right? If it's a salaried employee, it feels like you're taking on the risk, but I think you can still go out, find the best people and bring them into your business to go to the next level. It's just what for us, where we're at in our business, we have the capacity to fail fast on an employee, meaning we can take a risk and hire a little bit faster. And if they don't work out, we can pull back because our business is going to keep going. It's not like this person, the next salesperson we hire is going to be our only salesperson. They are going to be here for an expansion. And so we can absorb, we have a little bit more capacity to absorb the failures within hiring. And so again, we can hire a little bit faster and take that little bit of risk. And as we search for that best person, that rock star.
Yeah. And I guess revenue maybe wasn't the right word. Like, you need to have the visual potential to entice them. Right. Because our revenue has dipped pretty significantly because we had a lot of increase in costs over the last
Our net income is reduced. Yeah. Our revenue is still good, but
yeah, it's true. Our revenue is still good. Our net income has reduced a lot, but our growth potential is very apparent. And the upside there is huge. So that's really what you need to bring on A players. And that doesn't like you can show that, but I think what a lot of people become hesitant about, and it's always challenging when you're new, but a lot of people, if they have something that they suck, say sales, they go and they're like, hey, I need to find a salesperson. And so what they do, and there's people in our market that do this, where they'll go and they'll post on Facebook group like, oh, hey, I'm doing 10 deals a month and I need a salesperson. And then you talk to them, they're like, well, actually I've done 10 deals in 10 months, but I'm going to lie about it. Just like pretend that that's what I do. And then, so, you're trying to bring on people, even though you don't actually have opportunity for them, you're hoping that they come in and create opportunity for you. When realistically, if you want good employees, you have to already have the opportunity there and then make it available for them to capture. And
100%. And if you're hiring a good salesperson, they're going to ask you those questions in that interview. They're going to have good questions about comp structure and how many deals and what the expected deal close rate is for your company and all that sort of stuff, because they're good at it. They know, and they're not going to take a risk on something that they don't know, especially if you're hiring them out of a great job.
Yeah. Yeah, you're completely right. And then, for finding these people, it's funny. I just made that joke about posting in the Facebook group about embellishing the numbers, but where we've actually found most of our people is in social media channels or from direct referrals, rather than on job postings. We've done the job posting route a bunch of times, and most of the inquiries we get are just crap. Like, they're not good at all. And then then the job boards are always like, yeah, and that'll be $500 now for a job posting, please. It's like, but going directly to where the kind of people that you want to hire hang out is the best way to find employees, because they're going to already have general knowledge, they're going to have general interest. And if you can present them an opportunity to grow that interest, right, or that opportunity that they're seeking, that'll be the best way to do it. And everyone always says, I was actually texting with one of our mastermind friends in one of our groups that we're in this morning about that, and she was asking about hiring, and I was like, we find a lot of people in these groups, whatever. She's like, don't you worry about them learning a bunch from you and then going on to do their own thing. And I'm like, if they want to do that, that's fine. That's how every business starts.
Well, and you got to have confidence that you can still operate. Because look at all your competitors doing the same thing you're doing. Somehow you're still operating a business. Throw one more competitor in there. Who cares?
Yeah, exactly. And you have to be confident in your systems and have enough of an abundance mindset. If people want to go do that, that's fine. And there will be people that come and do that. But if you give them opportunity and you treat them fairly, and you're not trying to shortchange them for doing a huge amount of work, like they'll be able to, they'll stick around
Well,
with
and
it for the long haul. And it's all about the opportunity that you give, like the big picture. And like in the real estate business, that's giving people the opportunity to invest, which is why most of them are interested in it. Whereas it's amazing to me how many of our competitors don't give their employees,
or they give them terrible opportunities, right? Because they're focused on the bottom line, when it's like, hey, if you want to be able to provide a really lucrative comp package, that opportunity is huge to people. It's life-changing to be able to flip houses, to be able to buy houses at a discount for themselves, for their family, for their portfolio, which is so uncommon for companies to do, which is funny to me.
Yeah, which is crazy. I mean, our dispo guy Judd was talking to one of our rivals dispo guys, because the rivals employee reached out to him looking for a deal, and he was like, why don't you just buy one of those ones that you sent out like an hour ago? And he's like, oh, my boss won't let me buy them from the company, I have to buy them from somewhere else. It's like, come on, like what do you, like he's been loyal to you for a while.
Well,
if that's what
the employee desires, right? If the employee wants to buy deals and grow their own wealth, and they're loyal to you, you have to be loyal back to these people. They're not just people you can throw away. And if that's how you treat them, then you're probably never going to have a great high performing team.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, it's a funny book mindset.
Even with our virtuals, like they're on our team, man. They're a part of our family. Like a lot of people treat virtuals as throwaways, which is, I think, a terrible way to do it, because they're human beings. They kick butt at what they do. Like they are awesome people. And yeah, you're going to burn through some virtuals because they don't have the skill set you need, and that's okay. But when you find the one that works for you, take care of them. I mean, they're awesome people.
Yeah. I know. And yeah, you're completely right about that. That's a whole other conversation. We could do a whole episode just on virtual assistants, because that's one of those things that I always think is funny is people, they hire virtual assistants like they're trying to hire an employee for McDonald's. They're like, I want them to have the bare minimum skill set I need. I want to pay them nothing, and I want to know what they're doing all the time, so I'm not paying them for hours that they're not working. And here's how I've always approached virtuals is you hire them to do a task that fits in your budget. If they do your, and that budget's usually small, right? It's like $5 an hour, $800 a month. If they are doing that task and it's taking them half the time, who cares? Right? Like it fits into, it's doing what you need to do. And realistically, it's costing you so much less than if you hired
right. And they'll be loyal to you. I mean, we've had some great virtuals with us for a while. And here, we should do an episode on this, because one thing too, that I think you're pretty skilled at, Mike, is hiring them. A lot of people just choose to go with a service, and it's the easy button, and you're relying on somebody else to train them to do your job, and you're paying probably almost double what you could pay yourself, when you could literally just go out and do it. Like, it's not that hard to find a solid virtual assistant to do whatever. When we say virtual assistant, I mean, we have people that are virtual assistants, but they're actually, that's not their title in their company. They do a lot more than that, than what you think.
Yeah. And it's not always like just East Asian people too, either that are super low skill. I mean, we got a virtual employee in Romania. He's doing our web development. Our copywriter is currently from Russia. She was born there, speaks perfect English. She lives in Amsterdam now. They're virtual employees, right? We like our media manager kind of handles a lot of our social media stuff. He's from India. We got quite a few Filipinos. You've had people in Central America. You name it, you can find skilled people anywhere. Like you said, they're loyal. They work hard. I mean, like one of our Filipinos, RV, has been with us for 2 years now. His like whole village was destroyed by like a typhoon, horrible thing that happened. And he messaged me like 2 days later. Well, first off, when it was happening, I was like, I'm on the roof right now. Like, I'm so scared. And I was like,
dude,
Jesus Christ. Like, dude, like, let me know if you make it out. 2 days later, he messages. He's like, hey, we made it. I'm on my cousin's laptop and an iPad, so I can't do all my normal workflow. It's like, but I'm going to get the work done today. I'm like, bro,
dude, dedicated.
Like, I really appreciate that. But your home was just like destroyed. Like, don't worry about it. So yeah, we should do a whole episode, because that is something I get asked about a lot, is how we find our virtual assistants. And I guess the really quick answer to that is I treat them like every other employee. I expect them to have a skill set. And, I've always been a trial by fire sort of person anyway. So they come in, they don't do the job, then I get rid of them. That's simple. So cool. Anyway, kind of left-hand turn. I'm going to go into our educational topic, which is something that has been coming up a lot in the Instant Investor program, and also just from like random people in general have been asking me this. But how exactly we go about finding buyers for the properties that we're looking to wholesale. And Dan, you've kind of taken over the dispo side of our company, so I'll let you run with it a little bit. But a few thoughts on that really quick after we have our Instant Investor promo here. And yeah, we'll be right back.
Cool.
The Instant Investor program is our 12-week group coaching program, which includes a self-driven course and access to our private investor community. We will take you through the full process of how we find our leads, how we market, how we do our sales and follow-up, and how we determine the best strategy for every opportunity that comes our way. On top of that, you will also join a community of other like-minded investors nationwide that are all marching towards the same goals, and you will have direct access to Dan and myself so you can continue learning and growing with us as we continue to adapt and grow our business. So whether you're a new investor or already established, our systems can help take you to the next level. So if you think you might be a good fit, go to theinstantinvestorprogram.com and schedule a call, and we can have you talking to motivated leads in as little as 2 weeks. All right, well, welcome back, guys. So dispoing a property, or I guess selling a property to an end buyer that you were trying to wholesale. That is a big question that, it's funny, always seems to be a major concern with people that are getting started. Like they're worried they're not going to be able to find anybody. And it is definitely, like a lot of the people will say, like, if you have a good deal, you'll find somebody no matter what. And that's not necessarily true. Maybe it is in some markets. In our market anyway, our buyers are kind of
finicky. And if you get anything oddball, people don't like it. Like we always joke, they want the 3-bed, 2-bath, carpet, paint, flip. Me too. That's why I just did one.
Yeah, exactly. In the A, B class neighborhood. And I think that whole belief is part of the boomer investor wholesaler mindset. And by boomer, I mean that they were doing it in 2015 when they were
everybody's a boomer to you. Jeez.
Everyone's a boomer to me. Yeah. I'm a millennial. But yeah, I mean, like these days, especially because most of the deals that you're going to find are going to be unique in some way or another, especially because the market's been so hot. Anything that isn't unique, they can just list it on the market and sell it as a piece of crap property and someone will buy it. So when it comes to finding a buyer, Dan, this has kind of been your jam for the last little bit. What would you say are like the main steps that people should take?
Yeah, I mean, the first going into it, looking at where you got to look at it, where do you find cash buyers? Like where are you going to go? I would say the easiest, quickest way, not necessarily the tried and true method, but the easiest, quickest way is you're going to go hit up Facebook groups. I mean, that's where people go, and you can go and post in there and say, hey, I'm looking for cash buyers. You see those all the time, or you can just.
Well, I would say that's not the way to do it, is to go and say like, hey, I'm new to wholesaling and building my buyers list, because that looks super scammy. Like we'll have people do that in the Spokane group all the time. And everyone's always like, are you actually doing that? Or are you just like checking the box?
Right. That's the step from my coaching program to go do and all this sort of stuff or whatever. No, what my point there is you definitely need to join the local market you're in, join their investor. There usually be like an off market real estate group, or something to that effect, investor group or whatever. And go in there and find emails. Also go in there and find people that are posting actual deals, because they could be a buyer too, and try to strip out their emails. But you can't just stop there. So say that's all you did, and say you gathered 100 emails from that Facebook group. Now what you need to do is do some research on those people, see how many deals that they're closing, go and talk to other people that are local investors and see who's the big dogs, and then make connections with those people. Whether it's a virtual connection, a phone call, or an in-person connection, buy them lunch, buy them coffee, and connect with them so they know you're a real human and they trust you. It's just like anything else, because the dispositions is also a sales process. And I don't want to buy a deal from somebody I don't know, that is maybe a questionable deal, that they're maybe leaving out some information.
Yeah, you're completely right. And that's a super valid point. It is a sales process, and you need to be able to present that information to your customer, just like you would want to be receiving if you were the end buyer of any product. That means you have to have good photos that you can get. You have to, we actually have a checklist that we give our guys to go and go through and make sure that they get photos and notes of everything. Speaking of which, I have this idea. If you guys want that checklist, if you go to collectingkeyspodcast.com/checklist, you can now download that for free. By the time this episode comes out, I'll have that live. And you can get our walkthrough checklist that we give to all of our acquisitions people in all of our markets, so that we know that they're going to be taking appropriate pictures for
Absolutely. And that's the information other quality buyers are going to want. They're going to ask that for you. And if you can't provide that information or it's tough, they're going to probably lose interest because they have other deals coming their way too. You want your deal to be the best deal. The next thing I would say along those same lines, again, this is to use Mike's words, more of a boomer method, because RIA groups, real estate investment clubs and associations, seem to be really falling off the map lately. Some markets you and I are in definitely have strong presence. But what I will say is, just like anything else, going to those and chatting up, like, who's the big dog in town? Like, that big dog may not be there. They may have an employee there, but who are the people who are the big buyers? Sure, you can go and get emails from everybody there that says they're a buyer. But definitely, most importantly, I think just asking around and finding the name that you hear pop up the most, chatting people up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you have to ask that though from people who are actually doing business themselves. Cause I mean, we know this firsthand. Like if you go and ask anyone here locally who the big names in real estate are, there's several names that I know would be mentioned that I don't do shit.
But they're great at networking.
Because they're great at networking, right? Because that's with the growth of the financial freedom and real estate investing movement. I mean, real estate investment groups have become social clubs, which is fine. People need that. People need their evening away from their kids where they can go and like talk about all the life changes they're going to make that they started trying to make 5 years ago and have yet to take steps on. I mean, either way, not like completely shitting on those. It is a decent place to start, but you have to sort of, really vet people and get their basic,
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, 2 years ago, that would have been maybe 3 years ago would have been a great place, because they just seem to be more alive and well. But now after COVID, especially, they're just not as valuable. Another method too, I think, is honestly reaching out to some of your competitors. I like to Google who the wholesalers are in town. And I don't look for the We Buy Houses franchise people necessarily, unless they have like a local presence. And so if you go to Google and you look at Google Maps, like, where are their addresses at? And it may just be a PO box or like a UPS box. That's fine, but it's local, which means that they are in that market. And looking at that and reaching out to them, because those people may have a pretty good presence if they're actually doing all their due diligence. And you can go and see who's a Carrot website versus like their own website. The people I believe with their own websites probably a little bit more skilled, but that's not necessarily like a given. But that's another way to just easily go out there from your desk and find people. Another little hack kind of in that same thing that I'm starting to do, which I don't necessarily support or promote Investor Lift as a way to find or sell your deals, but go on there and see who's got all the deals listed.
And so what is that, Dan?
So Investor Lift is it's a service. It's basically like an off-market MLS. And this company, you as a wholesaler can pay them money. It's quite a bit of money, actually. It's like $6,000 a year. It's like $6,000 a year up front. So you can't pay as you go kind of thing. You can't test it and trial run it. Yeah. But essentially you can go there and post a deal. And it's got a cool little, map on there. It's just kind of like Zillow or the MLS, and you can see photos and all that sort of stuff. But they always have the agent who's selling it and their phone number. It's done right there for you. So go in there, and if your market is heavy, especially with Investor Lift presence, go in there and find the people or the person that has like all the deals. I don't know that this is going to be a really great way yet, but this is what we're starting to do. And start talking to them. Because if they have 10 contracts for sale, maybe they're all crappy contracts and that's why they're on Investor Lift, but they're doing something, they're out there. And so A, they might be a buyer. B, they're a good person to network with as far as building your cash buyers list, because it's about those relationships where you start talking to them. It may not be the first cup of coffee you have. And that's the thing you got to remember when you're networking with people. You can't meet with them one time for 30 minutes and be like, yep, that's my person. We're best buds. And it's going to bring a ton of value, because that first interaction isn't the part that brings you the value. It's the 4 or 5 down the road where you've built that rapport with them and they're sharing with you, oh yeah, I just sold this deal to so-and-so. And now you're like, okay, I know who that person is. Let's add them to our list.
Yeah. And a quick note on Investor Lift or anything like that are these like third-party services. Be extremely cautious building your business around that. Just like be extremely cautious building your business around a cold calling center or a, VA provider, anything that like isn't in your control, but you're
Yes.
outsourcing to a third party service like that. Because A, you're going to pay a premium for it. And B, if that service goes belly up, your entire business is going to be
Right.
screwed. So I think that, you can use those as kind of like a bridge while you build out your own system. But ultimately, you should not rely purely on investor lift
Yep.
and, forego building your own buyers list or make your own buyers
Yep.
connections. Because that's the other thing too with investor lift or like something like that. I'm guessing they don't pre-screen their buyers.
Of course not.
So you could have some really janky stuff going
Yep.
on when you're posting deals on there. Whereas like if you have the direct connection with the buyer, they're not going to screw you over. They're not going to do anything snaky. Or if they do, you can put them on blast for the whole community and just completely wreck their reputation. And B, you can make sure that they're actually capable and going to close on the property.
Yep.
Because, we've been down this rabbit hole before where we've gone with people that we didn't know very well, and then they back out like right before closing.
Absolutely. Yep.
Like we had a deal, one of our first deals that we did, I guess one of our first deals in our first year, we had we had a buyer back out the night before the property was supposed to close. The seller had already moved out of the home and put down money on an apartment complex he was moving into. And the buyer called at like 5 p.m. was like, yeah, I'm not closing.
You can't be doing business with those type of people.
We can't. Yeah, we had to go the next day and get a like 3-hour hard money loan to close on this thing. Because I wasn't gonna put poor Jim, the seller, super nice old guy. I wasn't gonna say like, sorry, bro, you're now screwed.
Yeah. And so just the last point on investor lift. Now, I'm not advocating signing up for the service. I'm advocating going and finding the people that have the most deals, and then they will also show you sold deals. Go look at those sold deals. Go to the county assessor website, and if it's a disclosure state, go see who that buyer was. So, which leads me to kind of my final point of another way to get them. Everybody talks about go find cash buyers in your market. It's easy to do. Go in a prop stream, pull cash buyers, recent cash buyers, and then you can also set some filters on there. One might be like a cash buyer that has multiple properties, which I like to do. And then you can pull down that list of people, skip trace them, and start contacting and networking with those cash buyers and cash buyers agents. Because if they're buying them off the MLS, that's a great buyer too. But what I'll say that's even more of a kind of a ninja hack is if you're getting like kind of unique properties, go and do a filter for cash buyers on those unique properties. If you're getting a ton of trailers, go and find trailer cash buyers and look at somebody and find somebody that's bought 3 or 4 this last year, because that's probably going to be your buyer and they're probably going to be open to that. If it's something else that's a little bit more niche than trailers, go and filter for that specific property for a cash buyer. And then now you have all these venues to bring in these people. A lot of that's going to be fluff and is not going to be as useful to you as the top 5 people you'll end up selling all your deals to. But you have to start with that large funnel, just like you would do with your marketing system. You start with a large funnel, you filter it down until you get to the deals you're going to buy. It's the same thing with your cash buyers list.
Yeah. And I guess just to add on to that too, a lot of people, they want to get these like huge lists where they send out these emails and have these people bid up and all that sort of stuff. Especially when you're starting out, I don't think that's really a good usage of your time, because when you go and you blast out an email to like 1,000 people, you're going to get a bunch of people that inquire and ask a bunch of questions, take a bunch of your time that aren't actually serious about buying. They want to walk the property, they want to do all this sort of stuff. And it's going to eat up a huge amount of the time that you should honestly be using to market and find more opportunities for your next deal. Because otherwise what's going to happen, you're going to waste all this time, you're going to sell it, you might make another $5,000 or $7,000 more, which is great. But now you're that much farther from your next deal. When you're starting out, you got to find, your key buyers to make it super easy. You can offload it to them, know it's going to close. And then over that, the whole period of escrow, you can go and find your next one. So that way, the second that one closes, you already have the next one lined up and you're making money on a consistent basis. And that's a trap that so many people fall into in every mastermind group we've been into. Like when we went down to Florida last year, that was like the biggest thing that half the people said was their struggle was they get a deal and then they spend all their time managing the deal. And then there's like another 30-day delay before they get their next one. So they never had the money.
It runs an issue. And which brings me kind of my final point here, maybe to close this out, is the reason why I'm pushing so hard to look for your competitors, your, in quotations, competitors, those other wholesalers, those other people selling deals, those other people in the Facebook groups, is because you can JV with them, especially if you're starting out. Find that person that does the deals, that has a lot of wholesale deals, because they know how to move those deals. So do a JV with them for the first handful. And guess what? You can go back and track who the buyer was. And then you can go directly to that buyer. And now you have a connection with that buyer, and you know they're a good buyer because that other wholesaler has been using them as a buyer. And so now you're bringing that person deals too. And now you have that core 5, core 7 people that you can do. Yeah, sure. You gave up half your profit on the first few deals. That's okay. You just saved yourself so much time finding those awesome go-to buyers.
Yep. And you got your foot in the door, right? With learning the process with somebody that has done it before. And that is another thing that's challenging when you're starting is, every cent seems like it's precious. And so you don't really want to give up any of your deals, any portion of your deal. But, in reality, if you're approaching this the right way with a long-term mindset, you're going to give up a little bit on the first few to go and have the ability to make significantly more money and have a much better reputation over the long run. Like that's worth the $10, $15, $20,000 that you give up combined on the handful of early ones, and that sounds like a lot when you're first starting, but once you get going, you're like, I don't know, it's the price of an education, which really isn't that much.
Yeah. We're always happy. You and I personally, we've JV'd with other wholesalers. We still JV with other wholesalers. And we're happy to JV with other new investors because we understand it helps them out. And of course, it helps us out because we don't have to do a lot of work because we already have some core buyers. And so it's a great flow for everybody to be able to do that.
Yeah. And then if you build a relationship with those key buyers too, I mean, there's JV potential even like on deals you're competing on. So we're actually doing one right now with one of our main competitors. They had been negotiating with this guy forever and couldn't get him locked down. And the seller was kind of sick of them, right? Just because they'd been, beating on his door for so long. Sent us the contact info, said, hey, why don't you guys give it a swing? We treated it as a cold call. We went in with a fresh, personality, got the thing locked up, and now they're disciplining the contract and we're going to split the fee 50-50. And, realistically, I mean, on this deal, they just made us like 30-something thousand.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Because they trusted us and they came to us with this and we kind of strategized the plan.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to be splitting like a 60-something $1,000 fee with them. And we made 30 grand just because of a relationship that we established years ago.
So important.
So important. So perfect. I think that was a good breakdown. anything else you want to add on that before I send it out?
I think that's good. Cool. Give us our call to actions, Mikey.
The call to actions. Well, the call to action on that, I would say, big thing is don't be afraid to get involved in your local community with other investors, and don't be afraid to collaborate with people. Like generally the investor community is quite small, even nationwide, and you'd be surprised at how many people are willing to work out and help you out with stuff. So cool. Well, if you want to follow us on social media, you can follow me at Mike_invests. You can follow Dan at InvestorManDan. If you want to learn from us and how our business works and join our mastermind group, I guess say mastermind, like a group coaching program. You can go to instantinvestorprogram.com. It's a DIY video course with a online community and weekly, Zoom calls with us where we go over, all sorts of topics. Like yesterday, we focused a lot on helping some people figure out negotiations. We worked on helping some people figure out marketing strategy, some dispo strategy. You cover it. We named it in the call yesterday. So instantinvestorprogram.com, schedule a call to see if you'd be a good fit for that. And then go to collectingkeyspodcast.com and you can get our 5-step guide to start generating off-market leads yourself if that's your thing. And then I guess for this one, which I came up with on the spot, which I'll have live by the time this comes out, collectingkeyspodcast.com/checklist. And you can get that walkthrough checklist, which will help make your dispositions that much easier. She'll be providing a better, a better customer experience for your end buyer.
Love it.
Enough of mouthful. I got to start weeding those out or something. We got too many things.
Cool.
All right. Well,
as always, Investor Man Dan signing out. One thing I did want to bring to the table is, if you can't tell, there's certain things that are hot button items for Mike. Go out on Instagram, and if you see something will piss him off, tag him in it, just to get him fired up. I love seeing Mike get fired up, so I'd love to see it.
And it does it. It's not.
It's not hard. It's not hard. He's passionate.
I am a passionate person when it comes to certain things, but I'm also quick to forgive your stupidity if you want to argue with me about something.
Love it.
So it's okay. Nice. I'll disagree with you and we can still be friends.
All right. See you guys next week.
All right.
That was my send off.
Oh, you supposed to have a crap.
that wasn't. Oh, that was a good. Did you just say that was a good one? You're like, that was too good. It's
Bro,
not a send off. All right,
it.
send off.
Send off. All right. Well, anyway, see you guys next week.
Thanks for listening. Please leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. And check us out at collectingkeyspodcast.com for tips and guides on starting your own real estate investment and wholesaling business.